going into the digital transformation for a continuous growth of the business. The three things that actually touch me upon for this topic. We're talking about digital transformation, and digital transformation is not new to us, right? Ages ago, we've been doing it. All of us remember the use cases for Kodak, right? Going into digital photographs, Netflix, right? Into digital content delivery. So we have been doing it for ages. So what is different then? The difference is, how do I future-proof the transformation strategies, the journey, so it can continue to be relevant through the years to come for all the products and the business model that the organizations have to follow. I'm really delighted to have this esteemed panel of speakers join me today to share their experience and expertise as we go through into the discussion. Now that future-proofing and continuous growth, the other thing that is important for us is on what do we want to do with these transformations. Why is it important to the businesses, right? Remaining competitive in this landscape, I think, is the key. For business to become relevant, continuous growth for the customer and the revenue, you have to have your business model which remain relevant. The second piece will be around not just building a foundation for this transformation, but also making sure these foundational elements will continue to evolve as we evolve with time. How would we do that? Right? Using data, analytics, insights of the journey to make more proactive decisioning. That is how we'll evolve some of this business model. So what I'll do is maybe have a set of questions that I've prepared. We'll talk through them, and then we'll open some of the questions to the audience as well towards the end of the session. So with that, my first question, let me invite Sridevi. I'll start with you, bringing your consulting and extensive background around dealing with customers on digital transformation. How do you align the digital transformation initiatives with long-term business goals and market trends that continue to change?
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Rajeev. I hope my voice is clear. Okay, brilliant. So I think it's more easy to relate some anecdotes. See, I have come across a couple of companies, one in the Europe region, which wanted to, it's a traditional company, and then it wanted to start off a digital journey, and then it employed about 100 people in Netherlands, another 100 people in London, in the UK region, and then started building a large application. It was a large one-year program. And at the end of 1 year, they saw that the embracing of that application was not as much as they expected, so at the end it became a failure. So, and then there's one more, which is a metal industry, again in the Europe region, and that CEO embarked on it as an incremental one. Okay, let's build one solution closer to the customer, and then after that another, after that another. So it was an incremental approach, and that became very successful. So which means that there are different methods of anybody wants to moving from a traditional organization to a digital organization, the way they need to adopt. It's one success story that's just showing path to the rest of the things.
Great example there, Sridevi. I mean, I come from financial services. At Western Union itself, I've seen our business model transform through the ages from a very heavy retail-focused business to a very digital, right? This part of the world, all payment transactions are now digital, right? Nobody carries cash anymore, do you? Or cards even. UPI, mobile phones have become your money, isn't it? It has changed its value. So if businesses which were modeled around old way of working, of exchanging money, hands, probably would struggle. So Akshay, I want to pull you in onto this conversation as well. How do you see from a product engineering perspective some of those elements?
Absolutely. I think I can resonate with what Sridevi had just mentioned. In addition, what I would like to suggest is, from my experience, I think it really comes down to how is the digital transformation helping the core business, right? Fundamentally, are we fitting it to the purpose of what our core business is, right? Not just doing digital transformation because everybody's doing it, but what do we really need as an organization and for our business? And second key concept I like to think about is taking an economic viewpoint. Right? This is a little bit broader than just a financial viewpoint, but really looking at what comparative advantages we can get from a digital transformation. And I think keeping that perspective, I've seen a lot of projects where keeping that perspective really helped us get a direction on where we want to go. because some of these digital transformation work can be very overwhelming and it can lose its purpose. So I think these two concepts really help, I can say from experience, that really help make sure that it is more robust and something that's useful for the organization.
Now, I know when we were talking earlier, Akshay, you did happen to mention about market trends. That was the other part of the question as well, right?
Right.
How different markets across the world and how does these digital transformation can help even achieve successes in such scenarios? Do you want to elaborate maybe a bit on that?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Rajeev, for bringing that up. Because when we talk about core business, I think our marketing and customer insights group is a very key entity, right? They are key partners in providing that input on what our core business really needs or what advantage we can get from this digital transformation. So keeping that in mind and getting those inputs continually will help with the transformation itself and doing the right things for the organization.
Yeah, great element that you brought in, right, about customer. Apart from business goals, continuous growth, right? The second element that is key to the success of a business is its customers. So maybe I want to, Akshay, I want to continue with you on the second question around how do adopting these transformation strategies to rapidly evolving technology can meet the customer expectations and the customer experiences?
To be honest, that is a loaded question, I would say. But let's try to, let me try to do a short answer for a very loaded question. So one way to look at it is, in my experience, is customer centricity is key, right? Whatever we do, how is it adding value to customers? In the healthcare industry, obviously, for us, patients are very important. I think we look at that as a main driving point for anything we do. So that really helps bring that perspective of what we should really be doing, right? And not get carried away with so many things happening around us, but that having that focus really brings it down to one or two things that we should really work on.
Excellent, good point. Sridevi, you want to add something?
Yes, so I think we spoke of this earlier as well. It's like business driving the technology than the other way around. So we keep the customers in front, so that means they are the ones we are driving our business. So we don't do it just because the technology is offering it,
right.
Presented.
Yeah. Excellent. I think I'm going to bring Vijay into this question as well, right? These guys talking about, and yeah, I also talked about customer, which is a retail customer, potential and end consumer customer, right? Your business talks more about corporate data customers. Do you have a view around that as well, Vijay?
Absolutely, and can you hear me okay? Yeah, so enterprise customers, the evolution happens significantly, and I think it's very important to make customers as design partners. So as you evolve solutions, work very closely to the customers, you do EBCs, the briefing centers, bring the customers in and make them partners and understand their pain, I think is very, very important. Other source of data that is very important for what we have observed is the escalations that you get, right? And I always tell my team, hey, customer escalations are good, don't complain about it because it means customer is using your product and they are addressing and telling you what the pain points are. So I think it's a very good source of information that's coming from customer if you use it. Other thing which I've noticed is that the regulations play an important role. I mean, I'll give example in backup industry. About 5 years back, backup was just the insurance policy. You carry backup, great, fine. In last 3 years, it changed completely because of the cyber threat. It now become a recovery industry instead of a backup industry, right? Now the customers are concerned about, hey, it's not just have you backed up. Point is that, can I recover my data? So we had one, stock exchange visiting us last year, and they said, Vijay, we want to recover 800 servers in 3 hours. I said, why 3 hours, right? He says, if I take any longer than that, that means a loss of customer, lot of business, right? Now all these new requirements have to be factored into your design process, and that could only happen if you have a design partner. So that's one element of really looking at the customer. But I think very important aspect which I think is very, from adopting technology perspective is really your internal asset, which is employee, right? And what we have seen, I'll give example. 3 years back, my boss asked me how many people you have who can program in cloud. I said 0. And he said, Vijay, look at it, we are seeing a disruption because of COVID and pandemic and so on, right? the folks were not going into data centers, they're moving into cloud, and all these applications moving in cloud. Now we need to cater the solutions to the cloud. How do you do that? How do you overnight generate so many engineers to start programming in the cloud? And I think that's very important to make sure reskilling and re-enabling is very, very, very important, right? A year before, he asked me again the next question, Vijay, how many engineers can code in AI/ML? I said 0, right? He says, Vijay, we need to change that. So if you notice, every 3 years, this change in technology is happening. So unless your employee base is equipped to retrain, unlearn, learn, it's very difficult to cope up with what customers are asking for. So absolutely, getting data from the customers to know what the trends are going on, but really preparing your employee base to address some of those trends.
Great insights there, Vijay. And you bring in a key element to this discussion to take it forward. It's about data. Like years ago, 1 terabyte of data, we all would carry like huge disks. It was sitting in our computers. Now we carry a terabyte in our pockets, mostly. Right? With the cloud journey that has happened, the data explosion that has happened with it has also probably created some challenges, maybe some opportunities even. So maybe Sridevi, I want to bring you into this question about how do you leverage data analytics to drive informed, proactive decision making to support these strategies?
That's my favorite question because I come from data space and I champion data. I love data. So it's prescriptive, predictive analytics, preventive, remedial actions. We've learned all these terminologies before. Adoption of data, bringing all the data together from different silos, Earlier in the past, people developed applications in silos and the data was sitting in silos in its own space and they wouldn't talk to each other. And so, I know I've come across a consulting discussion where my maintenance data is sitting somewhere, my real-time data is sitting somewhere. How can my real-time data leverage the maintenance data together? So that means when I see an anomaly in the real time, can I generate a service order to maintain that particular equipment probably in the next few hours? Earlier it used to take about a month just because that maintenance is sitting in SAP somewhere and these digital applications are storing their data in PostgreSQL or something. People who are in the digital space, they do understand sitting in SQL servers or PostgreSQLs versus, all your asset masters, everything are sitting in SAP, they don't talk to each other, I have my space. But with this data and analytics, the later data, big data, data warehouses coming into play, they are able to talk to each other seamlessly, and that the opening up data systems to talk to each other, irrespective of whether it is an ERP system or a digital database system, is the one that will take us of digital transformation.
Great. And actually, I want to also bring you to this conversation about now this data leading to healthcare data, which is quite more sensitive for the customers, for the organizations, right? What is your perspective and thoughts about this topic?
Yeah, so as engineers, right, everybody knows data is important. We love data. We have heard the term data-driven many number of times, right, from engineering college. Let me put some perspective in terms of how it can benefit the end user, right? In the healthcare industry, there is a lot of focus on preventive diagnostics, right? How can we diagnose something very early? For example, you have a medical test and maybe the doctor tells you, okay, you're borderline diabetes. But now the technologies are evolving or the thought process is evolving that can we even go earlier than that, right? Can we even use some technologies like maybe DNA sequencing, other things that are using your genetics information to tell you that you have a higher probability of having something when you become 50, for example. So I think it is the technology and the need from customer side is moving to that level. Again, this is all coming back to how do we use that data, right? We have a lot of data available, which may be scattered in different places, but the challenge is to consolidate in a way where we can have meaningful outcomes from that data, right? So I think that's something, that's a perspective from end user, how we can leverage that data and analytics to get to a specific outcome.
Thank you very much, Akshay. And again, it's probably not possible to talk about data and in the same sentence not talk about security. Right? This data is sensitive, it is our customer, employee, enterprise data. Keeping it secure is also an organization's fundamental responsibility, right? Ransomware, malware, and other attacks that you've heard in the market, they all go target this sensitive data. So Vijay, I want to bring you into this topic about, as I move into developing a resilient and cybersecurity framework for safeguarding not just our data, but our digital assets that are led by this digital transformation. How would you go about that?
Rajeev, we have just 24 minutes left. I'm just wondering how much time we can spend on this one. So it's a very dear topic to me. I worked in cybersecurity for a number of years and now working in data protection space, right? Just look back again. I said 5 years back, what people were thinking of business continuity is disaster recovery. A disaster happens, my computer fails, can I recover the computer on somewhere else, either HA or long distance DR and so on, right? If you see that solution, the basic assumption is that data is good, data is clean, I can trust the data. It's only the hardware which has failed over, I can just bring it over and things will work fine. In last 3 years, particularly in pandemic, you've seen a change completely around, right? With cyber threats, it's not about, so it's not question of if, it's question of when, right? Almost every organization, there's cyber attack going on, right? It's more about if the attack happens, which data should I recover from? Where is my well-known good copy that I can recover from? So it's not about just having hardware enough to recover the data, but really make sure that your application is finally up and running and you have all the business going up fine, right? Now, you can think of immediately that if it's cyber resilience, it has to be a security solution, which is great, right? Because security solution usually will look at the operating systems, the platforms, and how the penetration, you look at network switches, perimeters, everything. But you know what? For cyber resiliency, for the right thing to watch is application. And that's where when I was in data protection industry, we were focusing on data protection, which is moving the data into the backups and just recovering whenever is required. And the customers came back and they said, you know, you are like cashiers in the bank. You watch the cash going out and in every time. You are the guys who actually look at the data every day. And you know what changed. So if you can tell us the anomalies of that change, you will be the first one to detect attack. And what we have observed is in cyber attack, it's not usually overnight. It typically takes months and weeks, and it will leave the trails behind. So if you're able to get your application to monitor very closely and detect the anomalies, you'll be much effective in addressing. I'm not saying the perimeter security is not important. All those defenses are important. One thing to remember in the security world, there is no one defense which is 100% perfect. There has to be multiple layers of defenses. So as a hacker comes to first defense, second defense, third defense, your systems will detect it and try to lock the things down, right? But it's very important to protect the assets, detect anomaly, and be prepared to recover because it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. The attack happens, you have the right copy to recover.
Excellent. Thank you, Vijay, for these insights. Akshay, I want to bring you into the same question as well to talk about from the healthcare industry perspective. Obviously, another sensitive part of the data that you carry is the medical history for the customers.
Yes.
Right? The diagnostic insights that you carry from your devices that are doing.
Definitely.
How do you take about that from cybersecurity angle?
Right. Very, very important topic. Resilience is taking. I think you will start hearing more and more about resilience. I think reliability was one thing that in the past few years we have started a rise in hearing about reliability and software reliability. I think resilience is also now coming to that same level. But before we get in the medical side of resilience engineering, let me bring you back to some history. I think the first topic, resilience, came about long time back. This was around World War II, when the Germans were actually figuring out why do some of their planes, even though they got hit, came back to the base, right? And then it became a big topic in the defense industry in general, right? So defense industry has been involved with resilience engineering and how different things can survive, how can they come back up and become operational. So that's fundamentally what resilience is. I think adding on to how Vijay explained, the whole outlook for resilience, for medical device industry, I think it is very important because some of the diagnostics that we do can be a make or break for patient diagnosis and patient life as well, right? So if you have instruments and software that are actually going down because of some event or unnatural event, whatever it may be, you want to have a system that can actually come back and continue the results. That's just one example where resilience engineering plays a key role, right? And then when you look at resilience engineering, then your risk assessment automatically changes based on that, right? So I think that's one way to look at it from how we can use it in the medical device industry. But in general, from a digital transformation standpoint, what happens is many of our systems now are based on digital platforms. It's almost like electricity and water and internet for us, right? So it has to be very resilient. It's almost to the point that we cannot live without these digital platforms now. So that's why I think resilience is a very important concept that all engineers should really focus on and pay attention to.
Absolutely right. For a business that I have, where it runs in 200 countries all the time, and payments, money is changing hands across the markets, even across countries, continents even, right? Being available, being always there, and secure is the topmost. Vijay, did you have additional thoughts
Yeah,
to this topic?
I was just thinking, we heard about AI ML a lot, right? And I think this is a perfect place where you can look at a use of AI ML, because if you look at your business, right, there's a pattern, and when you see that pattern, remember that pattern, the AI ML can detect that pattern, and any deviation from that, right, usually is a sign that there's an attack going on that can be caught.
Yeah. Sridevi, yeah, please.
Yeah, thanks, Rajeev. Continuing with what you're saying, I have consulted for a European company who was interested in detecting anomalies in the network traffic. So we did this probably a couple of years ago. So that means, they were very ahead in the curve at that point in time. And then we have done very, very diligent consulting with them, helping them understand how do we capture the traffic, network traffic throughput at the switches itself, at the routers itself, and then start applying prescriptive and predictive analytics, and then throw the anomalies back into a network monitor, NOC engineering centers. So that's a brilliant security, predictions, applying AI and ML into networks.
Actually, I want to take that thought process a bit more further, right? And you guys are now coming to the edge of what I would call like innovation, isn't it? And that's the other key, from business goals to objective to customers, came to data insights, now we're talking about innovation. So building flexible and scalable digital infrastructure to support these models, to support the high level of data and transformation is also key. How do I continue to bring ongoing innovation in this space? Maybe Vijay, start with your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, so when I talk to my teams, I'll have customer requirements, and I'll ask the team, hey, can we do it? And say, when do you need it? And my answer always is yesterday. So point is that we're always falling behind, right? How do you really catch up the pace with this new ask coming in? And I mean, in my company, we used to have 18-month cycle, right? I said, guys, we'll be legacy if you do 18-month cycle. We have to transform, we have to change. And that's where we introduced this model called as release train model. So essentially the projects and the releases are disjoint. The releases go as train every 6 months, and the projects are like passengers, right? When the passenger is ready, the project is ready, it'll onboard the train. Point is that you train always leaves. Two or multiple advantages because of that. One is customer knows his feature, which train it's carrying, right? The train does not wait. So point is, it's much more predictable for field sales and for the customers. And for the projects, there is no pressure to deliver, right? That's very, very important. The other notice that we had was, we noticed that employees, are afraid of failure. If you create this risk-averse culture, then that impedes the innovation. So you create a culture where it's fast failure. If you fail, we'll celebrate the failure. And that actually creates this ambition and aspiration to do more innovative work. Let it fail, but some will disrupt the industry. And I think that has really changed and transformed the industry.
Sridevi, I want to ask you the same question on what is your perspective about innovation in scalable digital infrastructure?
See, there are multiple places in the digital transformation. Every piece of the pillar of digital transformation, be it data, be it app modernization, or be it RPA or anything, each one has got a room for innovation. And the applicability is far widespread and then, horizontally and technologically deep as well. So both together. So in the data analytics space, we already spoke of how AI and ML can apply to the prescriptive and predictive analytics. In case of, application modernization, I come back to my past experiences where, I have done consulting for a large multi-billion-dollar company in North America who've been traditionally siloed applications, and then we consulted them in a 5-year roadmap towards innovative solutions that will increase, which will future-proof and bring the customers with a seamless experience. And it was a 3-month consulting assignment involving about 20 odd stakeholders. And each and every person involved in the interviewing process, they were really, surprised to see the amount of disjointness that existed and how much of digital transformation can bring. The innovative digital transformation can change their experiences of their own business lines.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And again, I also want to give the audience the minute as well to think about what questions you want to ask. Think about it. We'll have our mic handlers ready to come to you. I'm going to go with the last question here with the audience, with the panel, then I'm going to open up for the audience as well. So I think we touched upon almost all aspects of digital transformation except one key and critical aspect. All of that is great. All the ideas are great. What makes it happen is people at the end, right? So maybe Vijay, I'll start with you to bring people and culture into this discussion. Yeah. So how do you cultivate a culture of agility and continuous improvement among the teams, the employees, as well as your leadership to be successful?
I think it's very important to, what we call is think big and implement small, right? It has to be iterative development. You cannot think of, to solving complete problem and then deliver it, because by the time you deliver, you'll miss the time to market. So I think it's very important to create that culture of design, understand the problem, but implement small, go to the customer, validate that, and bring it in, right? So I think that's very important. The release train model that I talked about, make sure there's a vehicle for the features to go out to the customer, often get validate input, and then come back. And that, I think, iterative development definitely would help.
Right. Akshay, how about you on this topic?
I think getting early customer input is extremely important, right? I think I can share some examples from experience where on some of the medical device projects, we were able to leverage something called early customer monitoring, where we would have some of our customers that have certain workflows. They would work with the engineering team to actually test the instrument as if they're running it in a real lab, in a real customer scenario. And they would provide us bugs and problems and defects that they saw as a customer directly. And it was during development cycle. So we really, truly, it helped us shift left some of our testing strategies and things like that some of those problems we could just solve and create requirements and do the right process from a regulatory standpoint. But that really helped us from that. The other aspect, what we saw was, we always try to bring innovation into our agile processes. Sometimes what happens is it becomes confusing for our teams. And the way it has worked for us is organizing around value. Again, it's an agile concept similar to release train, but really looking at what is the value we are trying to bring and then organize around that, right? Or get the key people who are passionate about that idea, who want to work on it. And then we were able to really deliver some good solutions for the customers, for the patients actually.
Sridevi, I want to bring you to this topic as well about people and culture of innovation.
Yeah. So I think continuing with what Vijay has said, how do we enable our people to, onboard the digital transformation or the, ever-changing technology, So we can't be one step behind. We need to be like 2 steps ahead. Only then we can offer the innovations to our business, customers.
So in that part, we are always bringing the existing people with experience to adopt the emerging technologies, and also bring the new talent, the young talent, to onboard the new technologies. So when we onboard new people, they are fresh. So they give the maximum output in a very quick span of time. And at the same time, we are bringing the experienced people to guide and mentor and, put the new talent into productive outcomes. So that marriage of experience and the new brain and talent works brilliantly well.
Yeah, I think you brought a very excellent point there, right? A new millennial, new generation coming out of campuses, colleges, freshers, they're all very digital native these days. They bring these skills from the core of it, because this is what they have grown up, learned, right? While folks like me, old goat here in the organization, right, have learned through difficult times and now are trying to still adapt and learn every single day. So keeping these two things together while you still bring talent, because talent still need to look up to you and see you as an expert to bring some value to the table as well, not just use that. And the value, in my opinion, that we bring is, obviously we understand the business, the domain, the marketing, the goals and the customers very well. That's where I think we can augment. We can augment with our experience, expertise in that space to really partner up with the true digital natives to bring innovation to the table. Doing hackathons, Vijay, you were talking about that you already work with certain colleges here around that you support hackathons, you bring new ideas, you bring business problems to them, and then they solve, right, in the construct that they have to bring value to the table back to you as well. Do you want to talk about that as well, Vijay?
Yeah, so I think, if you want to talk about out-of-box thinking disruption, I think this is where we have found the best, is where you get the young talent in, right? Throw the business challenge, and we see amazing results, absolutely amazing results. Some we are completely out of the world, and I think just synergetic relationship with colleges, right, immensely help. One, it grooms the talent towards the domain, right? In fact, we build courses which we offer as elective in the colleges, just so that understand the domain. We don't want to, stop the critical thinking, but just explain the problems that customers are facing, and after that, the creative just goes really crazy.
Excellent. Great. Thank you very much. I'm going to open the session here for our audience. If they want to put in their inputs, their views, confirmations, or questions. You have gentlemen here on the first table. Please do introduce yourself to the panel as well.
Sure. So myself Amit, I am from Thyssen Group. So my question is for Akshay. So Akshay, do you have insurance company as your customer?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you have insurance company as your customer? Insurance company, medical insurance. No?
No, but they are, I think I can see where you're going with that thought process. If I may try to gauge is, I think that is a big part of some of the business strategy, right? In some of the countries, the insurance payments help fund the patients, right? The patient needs or the patient treatments. So I think it is a big part of the business strategy. Because as product development, we really don't focus on the insurance payment side of things. It's more a business side discussion.
So my question was, can they do predictive detection of predictive diagnostics and leverage that for denying an insurance? Do we need an act for that, or do we have something to?
Absolutely, yes. I think there are different companies that are doing that actually. Lot of the marketing and customer insights companies actually use insurance data to come up with the disease profiling in different regions of the world on what is prevalent, which areas are actually experiencing a spike in certain condition, things like that. And a lot of that feeds into the R&D funnel of where is the opportunity, what do companies have in pipeline, and things like that. So it is definitely used in a different way. There are a lot of EMR companies, if you would, electronic medical record companies that are heavily software and data oriented. Those are the ones that use a lot of that information also, because they actually have access to direct provider data.
Actually, Akshay, when we were talking earlier, right, very linked to this question the gentleman asked was around predictive diagnostics. I know your question was about from the insurance company perspective, but also from people health perspective.
Right.
You were mentioning certain techniques that you probably want to talk about, how the devices today or the data that we have is used to model, including like some gene.
Correct. Yeah, so there is always research on, some research that is going on that may become a disruptive thing in terms of healthcare. And again, focusing on what the patients are going to need, right? Like patients will really appreciate if they know something they can work on today, so they don't even get that disease condition, right? That's where the power of data is in the healthcare. And obviously some of these auxiliary systems with records and insurance payments and all that will feed into that. Absolutely. Very good point though. Yeah.
Thank you. There was another question here.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Mahesh. I saw a panel has one common comment about employee upskilling. I mean, even though you all four are from different domain, but the employee upskilling is the key area or key challenge that everyone mentioned. So how do you deal with that? How you want to, because you can't push employees to learn something. So you have to motivate them, or there may be some other strategies that you have used in your organization.
Are you part of HR team somewhere? I had to ask, right? Vijay, do you want to go?
Definitely. I think there are two parts of it, right? And I'll tell you the first part is, I think, very important. The first part is to predicting what's coming in the future, right? That's the hardest part. And then building an engine, I call it, to once you know what to be trained on or what to be developed on, then that engine gets activated, right? So, and again, I'll give you a classic example for AI ML, right? You try to go out in the market and try to get trained, it's very difficult, right? And there'll be a lot around and not relevant to what you really want. So if you're able to figure out the prediction of the skills, that's one kind of area we need to focus on. The second, actually training people. What we found is training internal people, you know, and then creating a kind of fusion of that, right? So you train 2-3 people, let them go to conferences, whatever, get trained, and use them to be the seeds to spread the knowledge across. So we had to create a security training for our folks, you know, how to do a secure coding, you know, much further ahead than what we do right now. And I said, hey, there's nothing available in the market. So we got 2 engineers, just let them loose for a couple of months. They curated their own content, own programs, and then we got 300 engineers trained on that. So to me, that model has worked for us, but I'm sure others, you know, have similar models working for them.
Sridevi, do you want to add?
Yeah. So been there, done that, you know. So there are different methods and ways to, you know, tackle that. One is, I think there's an organization-wise, top down, you know, the CXO level impetus on, you know, learning. And see, I mean, at TechWave, we have got a TechWave Learning Hub. It's actually a exposure to, there's a training, entire training modules available to all the employees across the organization, and then they're encouraged to get themselves certified and trained, and the project teams award the employees who get themselves certified in their own project spaces. So that's a conscious KPIs that are monitored by the respective project managers itself, you know, straightforward, you know, direct to the field, the ground. That's one way. Another is that there will be typical stars in the teams, you know, so who are very much innovation centric, you know. They're not just heads down kind of a people, but rather someone who is outward looking. So encourage them, give them some seeds. Oh, you know what, there's a new course in Azure in the data space. I told you I love data, so I talk of it. So this data space, there is nice training, why don't you go ahead? And this is what I want you to do. And once that is executed, you show it off to the rest of the teams, you know, saying that this particular technology is giving this kind of brilliant outcome. Now Azure Data Explorer brings brilliant analytics, and then we see it in action. And that kind of sparks of motivation to the younger generation. Oh, you know what, let me go ahead and take this training. And then that converts into, again, on the KPI. Okay, now that you're interested in it, why don't you do it by end of the month, you know? So that kind of a cyclical, you know, it's kind of people who are nearer to each other get influenced very well, easily. So.
Great point there, right? Motivation can mean different things to different people, obviously. The people who are in it for learning have certain motivations, so you can gamify, you can bring other ideas to the table. And also people who have this knowledge, how do you motivate them also to share the knowledge within the forums, right? Simple things like treating them for lunch, by the way, right? Works very well. So all ideas on the table, really. Whatever works for the individuals, I think we ought to use it. I'm looking at the clock, last minute, maybe last question here from the MasterCard team. Can we get the mic to the gentleman, please?
Thank you, Rajeev. I have a question around the same thing. So we talked about digital transformation, the strategies, how should we approach it. And at times when the organizations are doing it standalone, it's difficult, but it's not that complex. But but in the new world, the way the businesses are changing, the way the technology landscape is changing, often organizations go for digital transformation and the business transformation at the same time. So how do you suggest one should strategize when one has to go for both the things in the same? Thank you.
Sridevi, you want to take it or?
Yeah, I don't think I understood.
So he's talking about whenever we're doing about transformation, there's business transformation and there's digital transformation. And most of the organization will take them together.
Okay.
Is that the best practice or do you have other advice?
Okay. I don't think they're independent of each other, actually, you know. What is driving digital transformation? Business transformation is driving digital. That is actually can be done by digital transformation, you know. They are not two trains, you know. They are actually together. I want to achieve a business transformation. What am I achieving the transformation for? There's a goal that we want to achieve. You know what, my customers having discrete experiences. I don't know when I will get my supply, you know, versus I placed an order, versus, you know, how much stock do I have, you know. These are not two different questions. They are related questions. And that's a business goal. I want to give a signal. That is driving the digital transformation. So they have to go together and they are dependent on one another, you know. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much and thank you to the audience as well for being here. I want to thank my esteemed panel here for sharing their insights and thoughts. Appreciate all of your inputs, guys. Thank you very much.